Hello again, it's Robin Holdaway, your friendly neighbourhood non-binary PT, just here answering a few more of your questions. So the first thing is abs. How do I get them? A common question, especially in the fitness community and in life in general. So when we say abs, we generally mean a sexy six-pack. Whoever you are, who doesn't want that? Well, quite a few people actually, and that's perfectly fine. So the six-pack, or the rectus abdominis, are the ab muscles most people think of, and they're ones most people see. Good news is, you already have abs. Everyone has it. If you didn't, you'd probably not be very good at functioning or standing up straight. So that six-pack, that rectus abdominis, is one part of your core. So when we're talking about abs, we're also talking about the core as a whole. The core is the sort of trunk of your body. The way I'm going to define it pretty much goes from here all the way down to almost your thighs even. It encompasses a lot of muscles, and that's front and back. So you've got those rectus abdominis that I mentioned, that's the front muscles. You've got your obliques, these side muscles. You've got your pelvic floor muscles, these go underneath and kind of hold everything in, for lack of a better term. You've also got your deep inner transverse abdominis. So it's a kind of like an inbuilt corset or an inbuilt girdle. It's girdle, is that even the right word? Who knows? Either way, it feels a bit like an inbuilt corset, so it's kind of holding everything together. That's a really deep muscle that is really helpful to connect to. We'll come back to that later. You've also got other things like your body quad, stuff like that, but for now, when most people talk about core, we're talking about those major muscles. These are so important and so useful, not just for looking sexy, but also for connecting your upper body to your lower body, for movement, twisting, reaching all these important things. Anything you do works your core pretty much, because in some ways it is stabilising you. It is also what is stabilising your spine, part of the reason it's super important to have a healthy core. And I know you're thinking, Robin, shut up and talk about the bit where I get abs. Okay, so how do you get abs? You get to a low enough body fat percentage that your abdominals become clear. Sounds simple, it's not. Partly because for some people, that body fat percentage is not going to be a healthy place. It differs from people who are male or female, and then for anyone else, kind of depending on where you are on that spectrum, it's going to be different. So for men, they naturally hold less body fat, partly due to the great unfairness of the universe and because they don't do the whole carrying, making babies thing. So they hold less body fat. So when men get under maybe 10% body fat, maybe slightly lower, those the rectus abdominis are going to start to show through. For women, can kind of be anywhere from under 20%, some people it's as low as 15%. It depends a little bit on how you hold fat on your body. Two kind of main ways of holding fat, but we won't go into that now. Essentially, there's people who hold it more on their stomachs and people who hold it more on their thighs and their butt. Now, if you're somebody who naturally holds weight on your stomach, this is most men, but it also happens for people who are AFAB, assigned female at birth. I know this pain well. If you're somebody who holds weight in your stomach, it's going to be very hard to get a visible six-pack. Likewise, if you're somebody who holds weight maybe in your buttocks and your legs, you might struggle for that dream butt you want, but you might naturally have more of those abs showing. This is a massive generalization, and as with all questions, I always have to say it depends. But before we sort of talk about how to get to that body fat percentage or what that means, the first thing, as always, I want you to do is ask why that's so important to you. I've got a really weird relationship with this. As a non-binary person who's assigned female at birth, often there is an expectation of androgyny, of muscularity, and with that, abs. They're sort of that sign that you are healthy and you are fit. Actually, on the contrary, I have been underweight and you've still not seen my abs. That's due to a combination of factors. But abdominal showing abs does not mean health. And I need you to just pause for a moment, even pause the video if you need to, and have a think, why is it so important to you? How different will you be if you have a six-pack? Is it because you're trying to get on stage and compete in bodybuilding? Yeah, fair enough, you do need a six-pack to do that. Or is it because you think it's going to bring you some form of satisfaction and inner peace? Because I can guarantee you it probably won't. You might feel better in certain ways, and I really respect that. And if you're somebody who after this video goes, no, Robin, I really, really want that. It's how I want my body to be, and I'm willing to put the work in. Okay, brilliant. Aim it as a goal, but make sure that's coming from a healthy place. Eating disorders are prevalent, eating disorders are rife, and I really want you to be careful when looking at something like this to ask, how will this make me happy? How will this improve my life? Because the answer might be that it won't. Because if you're sat there going, okay, I need to reduce my body fat, we're not talking about missing a few drinks here and there. We're talking about changing a lot about how you eat. For some people, they might naturally just be able to have visible abs. Yep, they exist. Sorry guys, but they do, and it may not be you. And that's okay. But for most people, it's just going to be a lot of work. So it's more than just body fat. I said that at the beginning, being a little bit facetious. It is the primary driver. And if you're there very overweight on the BMI scale, or if you feel like you've got a few pounds to lose, then the first thing you do need to do if you want to see abs is start to reduce your body fat. I'm always going to recommend doing that in a healthy, sustainable weight. Realistically, you're looking at between 1 and 2 pounds weight loss a week on a healthy, sustainable route. As always, go for the low-hanging fruit. I talked about this a little bit in another video, but you're looking at things like drinking lots of water, making sure you get a few walks in a day, trying to make sure you've got protein at every meal, you know, these healthy, sustainable tricks, whatever, I say tricks, healthy, sustainable lifestyle choices that are going to help you not only lose the weight, but keep it off in a healthy and sustainable way. So let's assume you've done that. Let's assume that you are currently looking at body fat percentage, you go, but why aren't I seeing my abs? That's probably not most people. For most people, it is literally that you have too much fat in front of your abdominal wall to see your abs. Fat is not a bad thing. Fat can be a very helpful thing. It protects your internal organs. So please, while I say you might have too much fat there, too much fat in your eyes, your body might be perfectly happy and content with the amount of fat it has, and it isn't going to want to lose it. Because the thing your body doesn't want to be is weak. It doesn't want to give up this nice, warm, protective layer of fat, the thing that's giving you energy in the winter months. It's not going to give that up easily. So let's assume you're going, right, I've got that. I've got the body weight, I'm at the weight I want to be, but I don't have abs. What's going on? Okay, let's assume you're right and that you're not just sort of going, I don't want to lose that weight. Okay, fair. Bloating, it's a real thing. Food intolerances, now you're looking at things like your gut microbiome. There is a lot of stuff that goes on about this, and I am not a nutritionist, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but there are some known allergies, things that can cause you to bloat. This is especially true if you look at yourself in the morning, oh, you know, really flat, so looking okay, and by the end you look like you swallowed a football. I'm not talking about a little bit of bloat. Everybody, if they have strong, solid abs in the morning and they eat, your belly expands, food has to go somewhere. So it's really natural for you not to see that perfect six-pack later in the day, especially if you've had a big meal. Also bear in mind, the six-pack you might be dreaming of, yeah, it's probably photoshopped. If it isn't photoshopped, it's the angles, the lighting, they're tensing to hell. It's that Instagram model, or it's the bodybuilder who has abs for like one day and the rest of the year they're kind of not. So just bear in mind, have realistic expectations. So let's recap a little bit. We've talked about why you want abs, realistic expectations, and really about getting your body fat down to a level at which abs can be visible. Bloating and intolerance. The other thing it might be is you might just not have very strong abs. And when I say strong, I also mean size-wise. Your abs are not this bizarre muscle that doesn't adhere to the laws of biology. In a similar way to if you want your bicep to get bigger, you have to train it correctly. And I don't just mean doing sit-ups to infinity, because sit-ups, though they have their place in an abdominal training routine, they're only training a tiny bit, and even if you're doing them well, you shouldn't really be cranking out loads and loads and loads. You want to be using a heavy load that's challenging you. Like, if you're there going, I'm going to do a toe to bar, so you're hanging from a bar, you're lifting your toes all the way up and touching the bar and all the way down, you can do more than 5 of those in a set. I am very impressed and slightly terrified of you, but you can see that you can make abdominal exercise and training hard. You can also use things like plank, and a good plank, not just resting on your bones, but actually engaging, pulling in, squeezing everything. You know, so you're working on that isolation. You can do things like Pilates. I love Pilates. Please look into it, not just for your sexy six-pack, but for your core activation as a whole. Somebody asked me as well, 2 questions in one here, how do you start training your abs? I might as well talk a little bit about that now. So I recommend Pilates because we're looking at that deep, you remember that deep muscle I mentioned earlier, the transverse abdominis? Yeah, this bad boy is going to come into play, as well as your pelvic floor. And while this is often looked at more commonly for ladies, it is also effective for gentlemen as well. Everyone can benefit from training this particular muscle. So you're looking at doing actually smaller. Less can sometimes be more because you're trying to really connect with the muscle. So things like doing little pelvic tilts. So if you're lying on your back, just think you're pulling your belly button in towards your spine and tilting your butt under, and then relax. Tilt and relax. Do a set of 10 of those, see how they feel. If they feel easy, do a set of 10, relax, and then next time, tilt your bum under, lift your feet up to what we call a tabletop position. So you're lifting your legs up, and then you're bending at the knee. So your calves are parallel to the floor, but you can see your legs in front of you. Holding that position can be tough, just holding a tabletop position. And for some people, that's enough. If you want a little bit more, see if you can just tap your little toe to the floor on one leg, then bring it back to tabletop, then the other leg, then the other leg, while maintaining that abdominal engagement. That's going to be hard. And if it's not hard, you're not doing it right. So looking at things like that and really working deep muscles can be a great way to start training your core. Alternatively, everything you do, like I said at the beginning, is going to train your core in some way. If you're carrying some really heavy, like shopping bags from Tesco, you're walking along, you're using the anti-rotational, so you're stopping yourself rotating, you're holding yourself up. Even heavy farmer's walks and things like that, they'll train your core. Things like plank, I mentioned it earlier, planking on your knees. There's no rules of saying, oh, you have to plank on your toes. It's an advancement of the move, but there's nothing saying you can't plank on your knees. Alternatively, you can do things like bird dogs. When if you're on all fours and lifting up your arm, bringing it down, lift up the other arm, bring it down. See if you can lift an arm and a leg. See how few points of contact you can have. Because core training is often really what we call balance training. So if you're a dancer specifically, you'll know that when you go up into a pirouette, you've got to suck everything in, because that is what is balancing you. So if you're really new to core training, try balancing on one leg. See if you can hold it there, and then maybe try balancing on the other. Another thing you can do is if you've laid out a yoga mat on the ground, do this for your back, grab your knees into your chest, roll back, roll up, put your feet down and see if you can hold that roll. Roll back, roll up. I could talk about abs all day, but the fact is, if you're not training them right, they're not going to be showing. And that also means eating. If your muscle wants to grow, this is going to feel very counterintuitive, but this is what I've been learning in the past year. If you want to grow your abdominal muscles, you've got to give them fuel to do it. So maybe if you're in a position which we often call skinny fat, what does that mean? It means that your body weight is low, but your body fat is a bit higher. What you might want to do is invest in long-term thinking. Eat a little bit more than your calorie maintenance, talked about that in the energy balance video, and really focus on some nice heavy work in your abs. Build up your abs, build up your obliques, build up your back, build up that trunk of your body and focus on really building it. You might gain a bit of fat alongside that, but it's okay, don't panic, because then you can do all those methods of losing that body fat. Don't go to extremes, but remember, if it's not under there, it's not going to show as much, and you might not like what you see, because you could strip down all the fat and you can look in the mirror and go, ooh, yeah, that's not what I wanted. I look a bit bony, I look a bit uncomfortable. You probably don't want that, trust me. Again, I've been there, it's not a healthy or really a happy look, because the truth is, sometimes having abs just shows that you don't eat enough. And for the people who have abs on that competition day, they've been dieting in a horrendous way for weeks. For people you see on the beach, maybe they are dieting. Maybe they're doing a juice cleanse or something else that dramatically reduces your calories. And sometimes you've got to think about the balance. Do you want picture perfect abs with sort of very thin skin? Then you're doing a really difficult diet. And it is a lot diet for, however long you want to maintain that. And your body's not going to thank you. You may lose your period if you have periods. You'll definitely lose your sex drive. Fat is important, and fat is kind of, in many ways friendly. We've demonized it, but having a level of body fat that allows your body to function is a brilliant thing. If you still want abs, I hear you. So do I. So do most fitness professionals. But do that equation in your head. What's going to be better? Having abs, horrendous diet, living in the gym, or maybe having slightly less, still having a great physique, maybe seeing some outlines, but not having that perfect shredded six-pack. But, maybe you can go to a party or have some drinks with your friends, or maybe not have to measure your peanut butter on your steak or whatever weird diet plan you're eating. I know where I sit, and on good days I sit there. On bad days, I hear the calling of being unhealthy. But it's my job to try and fight that, and I hope it's your job too. Thanks for listening to this long ranty video. Please be careful with yourselves, especially in times like this. I'm filming this during quarantine, and it can be tempting to lose sight of your health, but I want you to prioritise it. So you want that six-pack? Cool, let's work towards it. If you don't, cool, let's work on you anyway. Give me an email, robinholdawaypt@gmail.com. Let me know your thoughts.